Want to build forearms that not only look good, but help your baseball skills? Whether it's improving bat speed, grip strength, or durability, massive forearms give you an edge. In this video, I'm going to share with you the best habits and exercises to develop powerful forearms for the game of baseball. And before we get started, my name is Evan Mendoza, and I've played 7 years of professional baseball between the St. Louis Cardinals and San Diego Padres. You definitely do not have to listen to me. Now, I help high school baseball players develop their skills, get noticed, and land scholarships. All right, before we really get into everything, why are forearms even important for the game of baseball? So number one, the harder we're able to squeeze anything, the better we're going to be, ultimately. That's what the St. Louis Cardinals and San Diego Padres both told me as far as their strength departments. If we have better grip strength, it means that we're able to swing the bat that much harder. And if we have better grip strength, we're able to throw the ball that much faster. So those two areas are very, very important. So grip strength doesn't necessarily just apply to having good forearms, but it's really how well we're able to actually play the game as well. It also helps prevent injuries in your wrist or even elbow issues if that's a limitation for your abilities. If you're serious about becoming a stronger, more explosive player, check out the link down below for a free upper body baseball specific lift. All right, here we have some examples of some specific lifts for your forearms. So this is going to be a side angle of just basically wrist curls. This is a contraption that basically has a solid string, so to speak, and then a weight at the bottom. Basically, all we're doing is rotating that up and rotating that down, and of course going both directions. So I have a different angle right here as far as what that contraption looks like. Basically, that rope is in the middle holding a 25-pound plate, and then we're basically just rotating it for our forearms forward and backwards to make sure that we're going up and down controlled. Also, very, very important as far as when you're putting that weight down, don't let gravity just like slam it downwards. You want to really control that on the way down. This is a similar exercise if you don't have that contraption that I just showed you. So this is a typical barbell. And then on the very end, what I did is have a resistance band, and I basically tied it to a 25-pound plate, and then basically do the same thing. And as you can tell right here, sometimes you have to pinch it to get started. And this is just the end of a barbell. Same idea applies as far as just rotating it both directions, controlling it on the way down, especially since it has that resistance, back and forth. And that's just like an area that we can definitely improve our overall forearm, strength. Next is basically just a simple barbell. You can definitely do this with dumbbells as well, but I did it right here on this angle with just a barbell with 25s on each side. Basically hold it behind and then basically just wrist curl it up, wrist curl it down. And then also it's really important when you're doing this, you don't want to just think about controlling it on the way upwards, but you also want to control it all the way down into where you're stretching out that muscle that way as well. So just take that into account. Now this is, what I call steering wheels. Basically, you just grab like a 25 plate. You can also do an Olympic style like rubber plate, maybe a 10-pounder. And basically all you're doing is just rotating. This is gonna be a little bit higher up in the forearm and maybe even in your shoulder stability. But I like doing this for a good like 15 to 20, maybe sometimes 30 seconds if you're able to. And those forearms are gonna definitely start burning by now if they haven't already. After that, this is an area that I definitely think is very, very overlooked, is just simple hangs, right? You're hanging from a pull-up bar. As you can tell right here in this angle, I cross my feet and I also stabilize my core. So in this video right here, I'm showing you, basically I cross my feet and they're angled out like a good 25 degrees. They're not like 45 degrees or like 90 degrees or anything like that, but you're stabilizing that core. And then basically by holding onto that pull-up bar, you're basically just trying to maybe stay held up there for at least maybe like 45 seconds, and you're gonna start feeling your forearms definitely start to burn at maybe even the 30-second mark. This is a little bit closer up angle of that first contraption. It's basically the same idea of a barbell. Definitely didn't hold on to the placement as well. But this is a simple, just basically like a suitcase carry. And there's different variations for this. Right here, I have it equal weight on both hands. But basically, it's as simple as a 45 plate with handles. And right here, just really having good posture, looking ahead. Don't get into the bad habit of looking downwards, but basically looking ahead, having good posture. You're basically just walking around. You don't want to hold that in place. You want to be walking around because that incorporates the stability factor. But yeah, this is definitely a good grip strength exercise. You'll start feeling your forearms, even if it's just a simple 45. But basically from there, basically that simple 45 will do the trick if you hold it on for at least like a minute. This is typically what I like to do, maybe like 3 sets of a minute, incorporated, especially towards the tail end of my lift. You don't want to necessarily do this too early in the workout, because the way that I like to approach it is you definitely want to focus on like maybe your shoulders, maybe your biceps, triceps, and then basically work down your arms if it's a specific arm day. But after that, basically just some grip strengtheners. This is a super simple exercise that I used to do, honestly, when I was driving around. It's simple to have it in one hand, easy to do anywhere in class, in between classes, as you're walking to a new class, maybe on the bus to the game, whatever it may be. This is probably the one of the most important ones that is baseball specific. And it's best used if you have like a hammer, honestly, where there's a lever where it's maybe like 3 pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds, whatever it may be. Right here, I use a 5-pound dumbbell. It might have been 8 or it might have been 10. But basically what I'm doing is holding something in place for my elbow to make sure that this isn't coming from my shoulder. I really want this to be coming from the elbow joint area. So this is basically a pronation supination with a lever like a dumbbell, where you're holding it on one side. Definitely start out low weight right here, because this is something that it is better to do with lighter weight if you can control it. It doesn't make sense to do this with a 30-pound dumbbell. And number one, you're stressing out your elbow too much. And number two, you're just not doing it correctly as far as stabilizing that. So it's as simple as like just sitting down, using anything really to just stabilize your elbow, and making sure that that force is going to be applied coming from like the elbow. And that's a good joint to, of course, have strength in. This is kind of like the UCL area. Obviously, it's very important for hitting, pitching, throwing, all of it. So this is a different angle as well right here. Just kind of sitting down, relaxing. I typically find it more valuable just to use this exercise for your throwing arm. You definitely can balance it out for both sides, but just expect your non-dominant hand to be a little bit weaker than your dominant hand. So you might have to change up the weight, and that's totally normal. For me, also, I broke my left wrist, so I typically don't necessarily love doing anything on my left wrist where it's gonna be stressed out too much. But this is probably the most important. And then also, as you can see right here, I kind of do this lever forward and backwards, and that's gonna be more for the forearm, not necessarily for the pronation and supination. So that's just an area that 100% you can definitely do as well. And obviously this is the reel that I created, and I posted it on Instagram. If you haven't already, make sure to shoot me a follow over on Instagram. This is a great forearm workout for baseball players to build that forearm strength for either pitching, grip strength, or just holding onto the bat a little bit stronger. Forearm strength is a game changer. Train consistently, focus on grip and wrist control, and you'll see the results not just in the size of your forearms, but in performance on the field as well. If you want more baseball-specific training tips, make sure to check out this full video on the screen right now.